Let's go.
Mic check, here we go. It's the Kid Plot coming out your stereo. I know they hear me because I'm in every
So once again, I'm having the great pleasure of sitting with Jaime Filer. A little bit of a background. You're an online personal trainer. You're a Super League Live pro. You're an internationally recognized CrossFit competitor. You're a model, and you're an internationally recognized journalist, and just an all-around beautiful human being from the inside out that lays it all out there all day long. You're savage as F, like your shirt says, and I love that.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me on again.
This is great. I really like how you reached out and said, like, hey, you know, we need to dig into the meat and potatoes. I'm a farm boy, so I'm all about meat and potatoes. So that really resonated with me there, Engine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait. Before you say Engine, I was listening to the CrossFit Games video series on Facebook, and Katrin, David's daughter, referred to herself, Annie Thor's daughter, and Sarah Sigmund's daughter, the three girls from Iceland, as sled dogs. Because, right, you can put sled dogs through anything and they do not stop working. It is literally their job to never stop working. So I was thinking about my nickname Engine, and if I had a spirit animal, I think it would be a sled dog.
That is awesome. I'm glad you know what was cool? You got to meet, was it Sarah? And you got a picture, or Catherine, yeah, and a picture.
Wow. Yeah, of all places.
Yeah, badass, eh? Just badass. That is so cool. So the shirt you're wearing, I want to get into that. So this is a company that you represent, and
Yes.
You wear a lot of their clothing, and I think it's cool. Like the word savage is cool, but then you get something like that, Savage AF, and it just looks stellar on you. So walk us through about Savage as a company.
So it's funny because Savage specifically, and I mean, I should have told Jay and Sue this, but Savage came about specifically because of Super League. They found me on Instagram and they realized that I was this kind of hybrid CrossFitter bodybuilder. And they said, what is your sport? Like, how do you perform like that, but look like that? Because I mean, I'm not a regional level CrossFit Games athlete, and I'm not an IFBB pro bodybuilder. I'm like in this in-between phase. And I said, well, it's called Super League, and it's my job as a pro to look good and perform well, and I constantly have to be balancing the two. And they said, oh my God, you know, Savages was a CrossFit brand, but they said, we want to reach out and find different kinds of athletes because everyone just knows us as a CrossFit brand. And they said, so if we could use you as like our bridging the gap athlete between CrossFit and everything else, that would be amazing. And I'm like, I'm your girl. Just so happens I've got this powerlifting event coming up, and then I'm doing combine, and then I'm also doing the open, in which I placed really well. So they're just so happy with me as this like hybrid athlete that isn't tied to one sport.
That is awesome. What a great concept too, hey? And that feels pretty nice to have that kind of support. And here you two found each other. That is bloody brilliant. I like it.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that my sponsors like what I do, and vice versa.
So they have like not just the shirts and the oh my goodness, I want to get this right. When you wear the bra tops, like the really nice sports tops, sports bra, and do they have the like the under like shorts and tights and all that too?
Yeah, they have booty shorts and capri leggings. The other reason that Savage liked me is because this is a men's shirt, and I have 3 men's shirts but only 2 women's sports bras and like 1 women's tank top. I've got the men's hoodie. So they're like, you again, this hybrid athlete that isn't scared to wear like baggy men's clothes but pull it off in a fashionable way. Like, you tie this shirt to my red suede Jordans and you have a look.
Damn, yeah, you do.
Thank you. So they're just like, it's just cool how it doesn't matter to you. You're an individual. You just make it work.
Yeah, that's cool. So how's things in the journalist world? Like, I want to get in a little later to like how the heck you have this structure and this discipline to you, and how you even maintain this day to day, and you don't miss a comment. You're always so great at getting back to people, which is miraculous. I don't know if you even sleep. But, let's go to the journalist world there for a little bit. How is all that, and what does that take up in your day? And I see some of your blogs that are so damn good and inspiring. I read them and I get something out of them. It's like, wow, it's super cool.
Things, I mean, the only job other than personal training, the only job I've known is journalism. And I started that in 2007 when I was about 19, 20, and it was working for bodybuilding.com. And because it was an online publication, I realized that the world of online journalism, of things, of blogs, it doesn't sleep. Because if you're not on a story, somebody else is, that's in, let's say, the East Coast, where things happened before. So you always have to be cognizant and aware of what's going on around you. And we're not just talking in the fitness world, but in life in general. You always have to have open eyes and ears, making sure that you respond to everything in a timely manner. Because like I said, the internet world moves so fast. If it's not you, it's someone else.
Yeah. So true.
And then when it comes to responding to comments, I don't see that as, I mean, obviously it's part of my day and I allot a certain amount of time to it. Like if I'm doing low intensity cardio, that'll be my time to respond to comments, or after Katie leaves for work, I designate 20 minutes before I start emails to doing that. But if people can take 5 minutes, 10 seconds out of their day to comment on a photo that I post, then who am I to say, nah, this comment isn't really worth my 10 seconds. That's absurd, and that's pompous and egotistical, and that's definitely not who I am. If someone comments to me or DMs me, they're going to get a response.
That is awesome. I think that's pretty admirable, more so because you have like 45,000 followers, plus then you have online clients, plus then you have people you deal with in the social media world and other levels too. So wow, and good for you for taking the time. That's about paying it forward, really, isn't it?
I think so, because then the other thing is that you never realize who you're going to touch just by a DM. Like there are ones who have been, I'm going to say a little dramatic. They've been like, you don't understand how your reply to my DM saved my life that day. Like, I don't know what was going on, how truthful that was, whether they're being dramatic, like I said, but just in case, I could have saved a life. You could save a life with this podcast that you don't even know. You're just doing this out of the goodness of your heart. It's a labor of love. But like, you never know, in a world full of billions of people, one comment could change the course of someone's day, week, month, life.
Absolutely. And I know you're going to like this, Jamie. You're definitely doing it for the cause, not the applause. Eh?
Agreed. Sometimes there are times where on Instagram I'll like ask Katie, like, why do you think that one didn't get a lot of likes? And she'll be like, I don't know, but look how many comments you got. Look how many people read the caption, but may not have liked the photo. Like, your impressions speak more than your engagement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in that, and I don't want to get too deep in it, but I think there's a lot of jealousy in the world too. And I'm not going to bring that up as a negative concept. What I'm going to say is that people see you've transformed yourself, which we're going to get into here right shortly. And you've done all these great things, and you're excelling, and you're lighting the world on fire. And there you are. And a lot of people probably can't resonate with that level. Instead, if they were to say like, wow, and share your journey. And that's really my hope, Jamie, with this too, is to get, you on here, share your journey. And there again, like you said, if that can give one person hope in the day, that might make a difference in their life. You already do that with your blogs and your posts. I just think it's miraculous. It's giving back. It truly is.
I think that especially in the fitness world, people are under the misconception that there's a finite number of space, that there are only 2,000, whatever number, people allowed to be famous or popular or sponsored athletes. But truthfully, let's say you have, you pick a pro and you have them on your podcast. And one day that pro decides to have their own podcast. And remember, this pro has a significantly bigger following than you do. And they have you on yours. And then it's just, they have you on their podcast, and it's just one big collective. And there is space for everyone. A candle doesn't lose its light by lighting another candle. It's not like, if if you pass on your light, now there are 2 candles lit. There is more light in the world. It wasn't like one loses its flame.
That is a great analogy. I like that one. That's pretty cool.
So you and I are just lighting as many candles as we can and spreading it.
I appreciate that too, girl. So let's get into that. I am so damn curious because when I first met you in November in Montreal, it was probably about 6 weeks prior to that I had saw, or maybe 2 months, that you were coming to Montreal, and you were an athlete in it. I was like, I gotta dig on this girl. I gotta find out about her. And I mean, hit the follow button and just started following your journey and was really blown away. And there again, I'm going to say it, and it's not my ego, but man, did I ever appreciate that you took the time to answer me back when I said, you're a wow factor. You're going to light it up. I can't wait to meet you and perform. And you and I started to have this brother-sister banter back and forth. And in short order, that's what we were calling each other. You were my little sister and I'm your big brother. And I so appreciate that. And then when I finally got to meet you and Katie at Montreal, and the hugs, and it was just like I'd known you two for forever, because you're like these old souls. You just emanate positivity. You just that's who you are, and it shows in your smile, and you guys light up rooms, and it's just like, this is awesome. And that's the people I want in my circle. You're the people I want to be around.
Well, it goes both ways. If we weren't that comfortable with you, you would not have gotten that response. So it's because you emanate that we can play off it.
Well, I appreciate that. So start walking us through your journey of, I'm really curious about the athleticism of you at a younger age as a kid, and where that started, and then where it's got you into here today. We already know about your journalism, started at a young age. You were curious about that, but let's go to the athletic side of Jaime, and tell us where that started. Walk us through that.
So I remember picking up a basketball for the first time when I was 4. The tomboy has always been inside of me. Softball and basketball were my big things. And then playing basketball progressed to playing at the national level in high school. But then in university, backtrack. At 11, I started my first diet, which led to being hospitalized with anorexia at 14, and then again 15, and one more time at 17. So I took my diet a little bit too far, which impeded my basketball career, because I was about 5'7", 5'8", and would purposely keep myself around 100, 105. Now the good news, bad news, not really. The silver lining is that I discovered bodybuilding, because the whole thing behind anorexia, other than the control, is the body dysmorphia. So I saw this girl who was 5'7" and 100 pounds on 3% body fat. And I had a 6-pack, and I had veins everywhere, and every muscle was popping. And I'm like, I think I look like a bodybuilder. Okay, forgetting I needed about an extra 50 pounds on my frame, but I started competing when I was 17, because in my head, I did look like a bodybuilder because I had everything else except the mass. So I competed. I did 8 shows between 17 and 19 over the course of 2 years. And then finally a judge sat me down and said, listen, I love you, and I'm saying this because I love you. You look like you belong in hospital, not on stage.
Wow.
That it was probably the most profound, significant epiphany, turning point in my life. So it took me a couple years, because just as it did not take me, a year to get down to 100 pounds, it wasn't going to take me a year to go back up. I recovered by 21, because I realized that if I didn't get better by 21, I would have lived my life with an eating disorder longer than without one. And that was a staggering statistic.
So this fella, I just want to stop you there for a minute. This judge that took it upon himself, that obviously did care about you.
Yeah.
Have you kept in touch with this guy, and has he been on your journey? Yeah.
Of course. And Mike knows exactly who he is. He was actually, he's from Montreal. He was going to come out to Super League. And he and his wife have just been absolutely incredible.
Nice. I like that.
So this, I guess we're talking like 13 years later, we're still in touch. And he's so proud of me. Like, yeah.
Well, and he ought to be, and you've done this. Carry on. This is good.
So at 21, I competed again. But that time I went from, let's say, 165 down to 135 for the show. but had no plan of attack coming out of my diet. So I ballooned up to about 180.
You were 180 pounds. Okay, I got to get a picture of that. Yeah,
Maybe not. Maybe not. Assuming it doesn't go anywhere. No, I have it on my phone because every once in a while I will transfer. I mean, a lot of people, obviously I'm most proud of my recovery. And I think that's the one that resonates with a lot of people. But there was a time where I rebounded just like every other bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important story also, that I've been on both sides. I know what it's like to be the fat girl and have to lose weight. Everyone's like, look at how you're built. Like, it probably doesn't take any work for you to maintain your leanness. And I'm like, guys, if I can get myself up to 180, I don't have perfect genetics. My body doesn't love this.
Yeah.
So got up to 180, dieted again, but this time slowly. That was the first time I was ever introduced to the concept of macros versus a meal plan, because I realized the meal plan was way too similar to the diet I was using to get myself down to 100. It was just not healthy. So I competed at 21, then again at 24, at a healthy body weight. And then I think I maybe put on 10 pounds and just kind of coasted. However, at that point, I decided that I didn't want to bodybuild anymore. I was no longer a fan of being judged for what I look like, especially for someone so athletic to begin with. It was almost like, I mean, I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to any bodybuilders, but it was a waste of my athletic ability and talent to just get on stage at a low percent body fat. Like, it wasn't easy for me, but it still didn't take as much out of me as like getting on the court for 48 minutes. Like, that got my heart pumping, not getting on stage. That I did for fun. So that's when I found CrossFit. It was about 3 years ago. And I dove headfirst into one of the most competitive boxes in Toronto and haven't looked back.
That is awesome. And you probably have met so many people on that journey since the CrossFit, getting into that. And that's another miraculous thing about, like we were talking earlier, about culture and family and the people that now become your day-to-day comrades, right? Yeah. You're just you're a sled dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like Super League, CrossFit has a community. You know, anywhere Katie and I travel, and you know how much we travel, first order of business is finding a box. We don't necessarily need a gym to work out in, but we find out where the nearest box is, how much the drop-in fee is, and what the class schedule is.
Yeah.
And just go from there.
So CrossFit, and then I don't know, how did Super League find you, or how did you find Super League?
So one of my best friends, Dave, he knew Matt. I forget how he knew Matt, but they had a connection. I think Matt was working with a supplement company or was helping Dave with something in sales. And Dave and I were grabbing a workout at City Athletic the weekend of the Olympia in Vegas last year. And Dave said, hey, do you mind if my buddy Matt joins? And I was like, is your buddy Matt strong? Is he going to slow me down? Like, okay, I guess Matt can join. Anyway, I met Matt, and we Dave knows I love him, but we completely shut him out. Matt and I were just like, Matt, the whole time. You know Matt, right? Yeah. Guy's got peak mindset all the time, but he gets to talking about something he's passionate about, forget the workout. Like, yeah. So he brought us down into the Super League arena where you guys were going to have SL 1 and 2. And my eyes went like this and my jaw went like that. And I said, this is like WWE, but for bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, talk me through it. And not only did he talk us through it, but he put us through all of the movements. It was the first time I'd ever done the Viking press, hadn't used the hack squat in forever. That deadlift contraption where you like have to use your glutes or it's just not happening for you. And then we got a good workout in. I had a pump and I took off my shirt and I was wearing booty shorts and I had Dave take a photo of me, and Matt's like, wait, you look good. Like, don't get me wrong. Would you ever do this? So it was when he saw that I was relatively strong and relatively lean, he's like, you should be a Super League athlete.
Yep.
And I think that was only, by the time I got home, it was only like 7.5 weeks out from the Montreal event. I'm like, Matt, do you think I can compete in Montreal in a new sport in 7 weeks? And he's like, oh yeah, you'll be fine. I didn't know, but I figured that heart had faith in me, then I should do it. So,
Uh, I don't,
yeah,
I don't, I don't think you have any fear about you.
I'll try anything once, Tom. Maybe even
Yeah,
if I shouldn't, I will try it once.
that is awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
it's massive.
let's dive into that a little bit. We just brought up the word fear.
Mm.
I like to hear, your story as an athlete and everything you got going for you right now. If there was ever a time that really stands out with you where you had to take that struggle and turn it into a strength and just keep plowing forward. It can be many. I'll listen to as many as you got, or one that just really sticks out.
I think, I mean, without sounding corny or silly, I think the only thing I deal with every day is waking up to the most beautiful woman in the entire world whom I love with my whole heart. And like, what if one day she wakes up and isn't in love with me anymore? Like, currently that is the only fear I have. Because I can't control other people, right?
Yeah.
I can control everything else around me, but the one that is currently holding my heart, I have no idea.
Well, I'm not a guru, and I'm not a psych kind of analysis, but when I see the two of you together and what you two have, I don't think you should fear about that or lose one more minute's sleep. I think you two are like the epitome of, or like you're just love. When I say the word love, I look at you and Katie, and you have it no matter what you're doing. Driving and she's sleeping, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I'm great company. And you take a picture of her, and there's that beauty sleeping on the seat. It does not matter. And like I say, I so appreciate what you two have, and I think if more people had that, and I'm sure I'm glad to hear you bring that up and say that's something that fears you. That means you're conscious to it, and say like, I'm going to do everything it takes in my power to keep this lady happy in my life and keep her, here for me. And that's beautiful. And I'm glad it's a fear, but I don't think you got a fear about that.
Thank you. In terms of everything else, I think I just learned from a young age that, I mean, other than controlling other people, everything else you want is within you. So when it comes to something as small as trying a new sport, to asking your boss for a raise, to quitting your job and not having something planned afterwards, to moving to a new country, you can't control any of that. So you might as well try. Like, you always have to weigh out the pros and cons, but the con should just be, what's the worst that can happen? You don't have to list out all the cons, because that's going to scare you into not doing anything. But if you're like, what's the worst that could happen? If it's not that bad, or if it's still worth it to do, because if you think about what's the best outcome, then just do it. So what if I did Super League and didn't become a pro but placed last? I still got stronger and leaner in the process. Like, why wouldn't you try that? Why wouldn't anybody give CrossFit a shot? Why wouldn't anybody try dieting for a bodybuilding show? Why wouldn't anybody try falling in love or asking their boss for a raise? Like, why don't you just try? There shouldn't be anything holding you back.
Well, that is interesting that you say that, and I think I want to take a little different spin on that. We talked about fear, so that you're kind of saying what people have fear about. They're not going to ask for the raise because, oh shit, my boss might fire me or pick somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But this passion that you possess, Jamie, and this way of thinking that you have, and just what you said, where the heck does that come from? Where did you get that from? What attributes to that?
My parents, both my mom and my dad, I feel like from the time I was born, literally I came out of the womb and they must have put this invisible bulletproof vest on me. They each kissed me on the head and said, you're going to be fine. And that was it. And from that day on, I felt like lead. Like, there's nothing that can touch me and there's nothing that can bring me down. My dad was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease shortly after I was born.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And by 3, he was on a ventilator because he'd gone into respiratory failure. And he lived until I was 19. He continued to work until mandatory retirement age in Canada. Like, if anybody was bulletproof and had a lead vest on, it was my dad. And if that guy can do everything with Lou Gehrig's disease, there is no reason why I should be scared to handle anything life throws at me. And then conversely, my mom the only way she knew my dad, other than, you know, the couple of years they dated prior to getting married, was as a man with an illness, but she never saw him like that. She saw him as this bulletproof superhero. So she's had to deal with so much being thrown at her too, and never once has that gotten her down. She's also the product of 2 Holocaust survivors. I was
Wow.
literally born with no excuses, both like paternally and maternally. Like I'm not going to say I was a silver spoon baby. That was not the case at all. My parents didn't give me everything I wanted. I had to work very hard. But the one thing they did give me was work ethic and this like zest for life.
Wow, Jamie. I'm so glad that you shared that story, and that is so inspiring. And I hope somebody gets something from that. If you know that old adage where they say, if we all think we have problems, but if you threw them in a hat, you
You still
definitely,
pick your own?
yeah.
No one's choosing mine.
No.
Guys, I'll take mine back. Don't worry
But
about it.
but I think that's so remarkable that your mom and dad both came through those, tough times in their life, and you saw and you watched, but there was this, if I'm hearing it right, like unconditional love, and there truly was. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw us out. People say only a dog can show you unconditional love. That is unconditional love. The tripod, the 3 of you that shared that to build the strength that I see sitting in front of me here today, and that's so admirable. And I'm so glad you shared that.
Thank you.
But with that said, I always think, I don't always want to talk sunshine and rainbows either, and I try and fake it till I make it sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you had some, share with us what you want about like a dark, deep time where you really had to dig so deep, Jamie, to say, but I have all of this. I've watched my dad go through this. My mom has just upheld this strength, and I have all this in front of me, so I have no problems. But let's face it, we're human. And I don't know if you know about this number, 65,000 thoughts in a day, and 45,000 of them are said to be negative. That's what scientific fact tells you. You can Google that. And I heard that 9 years ago, and it was a game changer for me. But that's another time. But what moment sticks out with you where you had to dig really deep?
Um, I mean, I think the point where it came to a tipping point that I had to decide whether it was going to be Canada or America. Um, I mean, on the one hand, the only home I've ever known is Toronto. I've got all of my friends, all of my family. I am my mom's only pillar of strength now. She lives alone, and has a solid network. But in terms of immediate family, I was the only one in Toronto. I'd also been her entire life for 30 years. The only life she knows is taking care of my dad and then being my mom. So it was huge, but I had to make the decision to leave her. I also had to get the magazine on board and being like, guys, I'm not going to be in Canada. I can't attend as many events. Blah blah blah. Let's navigate this work situation. Um, and not only did I have to move to a different country, but after 3 months in Florida, Katie said we have to go back to my hometown, which is like a village of 350 people. Because I had no idea you were going to be part of my life, and I'd already made the decision to go back to Massachusetts. I didn't want to stay in Florida. And I was like, okay, so we go back to Massachusetts. Now she has mother, father, both of whom are with significant others, 3 brothers, and a sister. Her entire entire immediate family is like a 5-minute drive down the street.
Yeah.
And I have my little unit of me, just her and I.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even to this day, there are days where I'm dark, and she knows it, and Instagram will never know it, and I fake it till I make it, and I have to pull myself out saying, this really isn't that bad. I have an entire like ravine outside my door because we live in the woods. We don't have any Starbucks, but we've got the local coffee shop where her mom's best friend works and says hi to me and asks about all of my competitions because this little village talks to each other. And everyone was so excited about our engagement. So sometimes even on days where I'm not able to pull myself out of the funk, life reminds me that it's not that bad. that really, I mean, what a transition to be able to say that I went from Toronto to Fort Lauderdale to Ipswich.
Well, I love that.
Right. So that was probably a period of like August, September of last year, where I had to be okay with living like this. And now I can't wait for family dinners. And I'm so glad we're close to her parents, because neither of us are going to have any parents near us when we move to Florida. So relish the time while you can.
So remarkable. And that's exactly, you couldn't, that's your story. And you couldn't have said it any better for what I was trying to grasp. You know what I mean? Because I think it's so important for people to see a certain amount of vulnerability in one, and that it isn't all like glamour and it isn't all great all the time. And I use the same analogy as you. I fake it till I make it at times, because it's a choice, because I don't want to tell everyone else, my shit, basically. I'd rather say, like, I want to be the difference in the world, just like you are being, and that
Yep.
takes a lot more courage and strength to do that. It doesn't mean you don't miss your mom and wish you were closer and
Right.
all those things.
It also makes you more human. And I think the reason people love superheroes, if you think about it, is because they all have one human characteristic that could be their downfall. There is no impenetrable superhero. So even if you are a superhero, you still have literally a kryptonite. So I don't think it serves anyone's purpose to be all sunshine and rainbows and puppies all the time. That's not even what a superhero is. So why should you be that? That's a god, not a superhero.
That's right. I like that. So what is the most exciting thing coming up? Well, I know, hey, let's talk about that first. In a few days here, you have a competition you're kicking ass getting ready for. Walk us through that.
I do. So Sue gave us 8 days to prep, as they for the inaugural combine event, which is a mix of bodybuilding and CrossFit, essentially 9 movements. You have 1 minute to hit as many reps as possible, or revolutions, or distance. Um, and then again, there's no real weight category, but it behooves you to lift a bigger percentage of your body weight. So small weight cut involved. But other than that, because of the movements and because I'm already doing CrossFit, there's really no physical preparation other than a small diet. Like, yeah, I'm going to test in advance to see what I should be hitting, or like, should I do sets of 10 or sets of 7? But other than that, and we talked about this on the first podcast, the thing about Super League is that it's so accessible. If you only had a CrossFit gym, or you only had a Globo Fitness membership, or you just worked out in your basement, you can do this event. Also because they've made it virtual. So, in terms of how I'm preparing, it's up here, because everything I've been doing in the gym is just going to translate on Sunday morning. So it's just getting my head into that competitive mindset.
That's awesome. Are you doing, okay, so that's the combine. Are you doing the next Power Series, which is next Sunday?
Yeah, no, I was talking to Kat about this, because we were trying to plan like my weight, not my weight, my water manipulation. And she's
Yeah.
like, when do you want to experiment? And I said, I'm not going to do Power League. I think there comes a point where you have to stop constantly testing your strength and then just working on building it. Because
Nice.
I did the one in February, and then 6 weeks later, I did the one in March. And this is all with 2 herniated discs, by the way.
Yeah. Shit.
So there was that. And I put about 10 pounds on my squat, lost 5 pounds on my bench, and kept my deadlift the same. Like, okay, those are solid numbers, but I want to see 10 pounds on my squat, 15 on my deadlift, and 5 on my bench. If I can't hit that, then I'm totally okay giving myself a break, and I'll let Kristen Graham have next weekend's event.
Well, that's very admirable of you, Jamie.
She can take the one on the 14th.
Oh, I love the banter that you three have. It's just phenomenal.
Yep.
That's good. Well, man, that was great how you just opened up and dove right into that. What is like the next what's the word? Not a hurdle, but what is the next big thing that excites you beyond belief right now that you're really waking up in the morning and just feeling to drive for?
Getting ourselves to Tampa.
Yeah.
This has been a childhood dream ever since I was 15, that I would just be living in Florida, and nobody is surprised that I'm going. But I mean, as it stands right now, Katie is not gainfully employed, and we don't have a house. But we've officially decided to give our landlord the last month's rent. So we have to be out of here by the 1st of May. We're taking a 10-day trip to California and then driving from Ipswich to Florida with no actual plan except the Airbnb we're going to stay in for a month while we find a house. So we are, she is unemployed. We are homeless. And I could not be more excited to do this journey, this adventure. It wakes me up in the morning, 100%.
That is, I love it. You
Yeah.
know what? Here, I'm going to put a little bit of, I'm a conceive, believe, achieve guy. I'm karma all the way through.
Yeah.
So I think with the amount of relationships you have and Katie have, I'm quite certain there's one you'll be able to leverage to find Katie something in her field in Tampa, Florida. I think that's happening. That'll happen when the time's right.
I'm already there. Yeah, I'm there with you. She
Yeah.
will catch up, but you and I are already there.
That's great. Katie, is she works in the medical field?
Speech language pathology, yeah.
Speech language pathology. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hear many of those. So that's deaf or deaf or
So
mute.
she deals with everything from swallowing, people
Yeah.
who have swallowing disorders, people who have had strokes, and need to relearn, how to, from a muscle perspective, how to swallow again, people who have dementia, who have forgotten how to swallow. But then also she can correct a kid stuttering, if there's a lisp, if they have a cleft palate, there's anything from like here to here is Katie's department.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Good for her. That's awesome.
She's so smart. Yeah. Wicked
So,
smart.
so that's keeping you awake at night. Tampa, Florida. When you said that this has been a dream of yours since you were a young kid, what brought that on? What did you see from Tampa, Florida that went like, one day I'm going to move there. One day I'm going to live there.
It was Florida. It was actually Fort Lauderdale. It was North Miami Beach. And it was because my mom and my grandma had taken me every year, twice a year, in December and then again in April for like Hanukkah and Passover break. So I essentially spent a significant amount of time in Florida during my formative years. And then my grandma got sick, so it was just my mom and I. And then at about 16, 17, I started working. I made an income. It was just me going whenever I could afford to. And so, I mean, as the years progressed from 0 to 30, I just started spending more and more time in Florida. Met Katie, spent 4 months down there every single day, realized, yes, it's everything I hoped it would be. It didn't just feel like a vacation. It felt like home. So we looked into prices in North Miami Beach, and that wasn't happening. And that's how we settled on the West Coast instead of the East Coast. But I don't know, Florida just always felt like home.
And you see a gym that you're already, you guys must have went to one of those, say like, that is our place.
So we've not, we're going to have to, obviously. And that is our first order of business. And this goes back to like bringing everything full circle. Our first order of business, once we get settled in May, not even when we buy a house, just when we get settled, is to find a CrossFit gym, because in Ipswich, we've built our friends and our community around CrossFit 133, which is about 18 minutes away. I mean, the majority of people who are coming to our engagement party are from CrossFit. The majority of people we go on double dates with or who I see for coffee are from CrossFit. So we decided that first order of business, find a CrossFit, make friends. We want, yeah.
I like how you go about that. You guys just get on Instagram, say, okay, we're in this area. DM me if there's anything. That's awesome. And fill me in there. Like, what kind of, you must get all sorts of crazy responses. When you do that, you don't know what you're going to get though, either, do you?
No. But I'll say that right off the bat, everything that comes into my DMs is shared with Katie. So for better or worse, she's but I mean, for the most part, like if it wasn't for her slipping into my DMs, I would not have met her. This started via Instagram DMs. Same with the circle of friends that we hung out with at the Arnold. Same with the group of girls we're going to be staying with Memorial Day weekend in Pensacola. And I'm, in Tampa when we hang out with people, or Clearwater, St. Pete, the people we meet are going to be from Instagram. And I think in 2018, it's okay. I know at this point how to distinguish the creepers and the lurkers and the, men who are preying on 13-year-old girls from, people who just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think social media has made networking easier, socially speaking and professionally. But yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. You have this spirit about you, Jamie, and you've probably been told this before. I'm not even going to refer to like the engine nickname you've got, like just all 8 cylinders always cranked and running and going. But you have this spirit about you, and it had to have started somewhere. Like you shared your story of your past and why you have every reason to be grateful and thankful, and you count your blessings every day, and you're very humble.
Yeah.
But you have this such a positive, vibrant way to you, like it just emanates off of you. And I'm sure you've been told that before, and I'm sure Katie tells you that all the time, which is beautiful. But y- where does that come from? Like I look at people and I wonder, do you meditate? Do you like give like a thankful kind of thing in the morning, or how do you start just by like putting that on?
So that is actually genetic, and that is more my dad than my mom. She said that there would be times where he would walk into a room just smiling, like one of those people with an idiot grin, and you wonder what he just told himself. Um, and she said, "What just happened in your head? Like, why are you laughing to yourself? Why are you smiling?" And his response, like his could have had it tattooed on his forehead, was, "I'm just so happy to be here." And we're talking like at a party. I mean, the guy was a justice of the provincial court. He was happy to be wherever he was just so happy to be there. So there are times where Katie will catch me smiling and she's like, "What are you thinking about?" And I'm like, "No, nothing. Why?" And she's like, "You're smiling." And I'm like, "Huh, I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be here." Like that, I don't know. It's one of those things where like I didn't have to meditate. I didn't have to read a profound book. I didn't have to go to Thailand. I just wake up, and the fact that I've woken up, especially in my circumstances, like I said, why wouldn't I be grateful? Like no part of my life, there's always a silver lining. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was digging on. Like, because I think a lot of people can hear that and hopefully learn to have that attitude of gratitude that you just shared, and not just all based on your circumstances as growing up and what you saw. And you had two great mentors. I mean, that's one thing. But when we become adults and we get out into the real world and we have all these, well, some are distractions and we have all these things in front of us, we still have to be tooled up well enough to know how the heck we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And
and
there are people who don't. I mean, you say we have to be tooled up. No, we don't, because you know as well as I do so many adults who are not equipped to handle adulthood. They should have been held at like 18 until they were ready to graduate into adulthood.
I'm agreeing with you 100%. That could be another whole hour long of psychology right there.
Yeah.
But, I always think it's pretty cool that we're not here to, teach everyone. I don't know everything. I mean, I have a humble beginning, and I'm humble right now just to say I just want to keep continuing to learn and grow, and not have an ego. Like my ego is like way back behind me now. It's just not, never did anything for me, never got me to where I wanted to be. This does, however, and this soul like just fuels me to hear someone like yourself have this story, that took a whole bunch of, you take your struggles and you turn them into the strengths, and you just keep excelling, and you just keep setting the bar. And when I say setting the bar, that's what is the next big thing? Yeah, you're moving to Florida. You said that's the next big exciting, but what is the next big bar set for Jamie Filer? What do you just absolutely want to accomplish? And you got this plan mustering up inside you that maybe you can share.
I mean, back in the day, we're talking like a month ago, the plan was to work for Flex and be the first ever female editor or editor in chief, but Flex went under, unfortunately. Yeah, I always wanted to be the editor of some huge publication like Oxygen, Flex, Muscle and Fitness, Men's Health. So I think the next huge thing would be something career oriented, because when it comes to like life, athletics, love, I'm owning it. But the only place where I feel like there's room for me to grow is yeah, professionally. So yeah.
Do you think there's a place in this world, and not knowing what the future holds in terms of, so like all the interwebs, I call it, and the social medias, and it's the wave of the future, but do you think that there's an opportunity that could be started in terms of a different magazine or a different way of looking at things? Like, say, I read your blogs, and you are so well diverse, Jaime, not just to talk about sports or fitness or your health and your diet and all those things, but you touch on beautiful touchy subjects too, and things that make people you're already doing all that, and that I'm very interested and intrigued in. So maybe I'm hitting you up for, like, maybe we should put a fire out there and say, like, hey, we're going to start our own thing here. We're going to get this going, and it's going to be a whole new way of looking at things.
Well, I mean, truthfully, that's what you're doing with the podcast. I mean, you could have just had me on and be like, you're a Super League pro. Tell us how you train and diet and cardio and supplement. And we could have gone on that for an hour, but we didn't. We talked, one of your questions was about how I'm training for a combine, and that's it. And I love that, but that's the point. And I'm sure that with your other guests, like, training is just a part of what you do. It's not even who you are. So I think that you've already started that movement in terms of doing something different. I think we're out of the planning stages. You officially have the podcast that you were talking about. That's incredible.
Okay, I'm blushing now. Can you see that on screen? Like, you made an old man blush. I'm probably the color of your shirt. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. But this gift and ability that you have, though, in terms of, you have this way of writing something down. So you gather the information, I'm taking it, you analyze it, and then you put it on a platform that's like easily readable. Mm-hmm. It yanks a heartstring, I'm not going to lie, which is great. Yeah. And it just shows that vulnerability, about the situation. So that's what I'm digging on in you. Like,
oh, I see. I would rather, I mean, when it comes to that, I would rather freelance for other people. I'm not, of course I'm in the mood to make a name for myself. That's great. But I don't want the entire entity unto myself. Just like with everything else, I'd rather spread the love. I don't want to be responsible for always putting out my own blog on my own site and my own YouTube video. I want to be asked to be on things, because, like, on your podcast and on the other one I was on a couple of months ago, and writing for these other blogs in Canada, I feel like that's a much better way to spend my time, because they have a totally different readership. I'm only going to ever have, like, I mean, Instagram demographics are there for a reason. I know what percentage of men and women follow me. I know my age category. I know where they're coming from. And that's so great. And I have 44.2 thousand people that I absolutely love and who love me back. But if I go on your podcast and there's, we're beyond the 44.2 right now. We're beyond those little Instagram graphics I'm getting. We're touching that many more people. So instead of just expanding my network this way, I want to go this way.
That makes a lot of sense. That's exactly what I was driving at. You just laid it down. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jaime, if you could shake a magic wand, I'm going to put it this way. Yeah. And change one thing in the world. I know that's tough to say, one thing. I got to limit myself to one thing. But if you could shake that magic wand and change one thing in the world for people, what would that be?
I would have people stop self-handicapping. I would have people stop their self-doubt, because I believe we'd have so many more great ideas and things, and even people, if they expose themselves more, but they either don't think they're worth it, or they have imposter syndrome and don't believe that they should be in the position where they are. So they just try and fly under the radar the whole time, and then no great idea or thought comes out of them. I would wave a magic wand and somehow let everyone know what their gift is and why they were put on this earth, and have them discover their purpose, give them some clarity so that they can go out and do that amazing thing that they were put on this earth to do.
That is, I'm going to say it, that's the best answer I've ever had on this so far. And that's one of my key questions. That is a wow moment. And I hope people really resonate with that when you say, and I hope it lights a fire under their ass to say, I think she just challenged me. I think that she just actually shook that magic wand and said, what's holding you back? Get out there. Get out
Because
there and
that's the
conquer.
worst that could happen. If you're a scientist out there and you think maybe you have the cure for something, or you've discovered a new cell, gene, whatever, but you don't tell anyone, because what if? What if they don't give you funding, so you stick to something safe? Well, maybe somebody else, if they don't give you funding, maybe they will. But you have to tell someone about your idea, or no one's ever going to have it.
And have you ever been challenged in that way yourself in not so long a time? Let's go back in the last 6 years. I like that you just said that. In the last 6 years of Jaime Filer's life, has that self-doubt or anything really ever crept in to say, I don't know if I can actually do this. I don't know if I can actually hammer it home.
Yeah, but I put it on my shoulder and say, watch me.
Okay. There's another learn. I
You.
do you, I want a bobblehead Jaime Filer doll. You just gave me a great idea for your inspiration and your positivity, and you should be passing that message on. Here's what I do when I have self-doubt. I put this thing right on my shoulder.
And so you get a front row seat to watch me do it.
Oh shit, girl. That is brilliant. I like that.
Thank you.
You're so like quick and witty. Like I can't even. I'm trying to make you like dig deep to think, and you just have it. You just have the answer.
Just life. Like, you're just asking about life, Tom. It'd be like saying, like, what color is the table in front of you? It's been 30 years. Like, if I don't know my life by now, I've been doing it wrong.
But don't you think that that's what the biggest holdback for people? I always say it like the Walking Dead syndrome. Like, there's so many people that have the Walking Dead syndrome right now that are just walking around like a zombie, like you said, just existing or maybe hiding from what this greatness that could be within them. They're scared of it, or they're in self-doubt, or so many things like that.
Yep.
But
I think the other thing people are missing, among those two, people don't think about their thoughts enough. Like, if Katie and I are driving and it's been 5.5 minutes since somebody said something to the other one, and we're totally fine, like, we're not in a fight or anything, she'd just be like, what are you thinking? And I'll have to stop, and I have to think about what I'm thinking, and then I tell her. And then either there's dialogue or there's not. And then another 7 minutes will pass, and I'll be like, what are you thinking about? I think people don't ask one another, especially in relationships, what are you thinking? Even like if you are alone and you're working from home at your cubicle, stop yourself one day and be like, what are you thinking? I don't know. It might surprise you.
I do a lot. That's awesome you said that, because I do a lot of talking in the rearview mirror. So when I'm driving in my truck, I have my sunglasses on, so people, and they probably think I'm just on a speakerphone talking on the phone when I'm at a set of lights, but I'm looking in the mirror saying, like, what do you want out of life? You're looking in this rearview mirror. Are you looking behind you? You're looking in front of you. I do that all the time to myself. But here's a question for you. When you are really curious about what Katie's thinking and she's sleeping, like, do you just build these questions up in your head to say, okay, when she wakes up in 20 minutes from the cat nap, I have 5 questions?
She'll usually be the first one and say, like, what were you thinking about? She knows that my brain is always on. I just assume she's dreaming about me. So
That's awesome. That's what I was looking for. Oh, so cool. You know what? I so appreciate you being so open. And I think if more people could, like you said it too, if more people could just become vulnerable and just really, it isn't about the poor me theory. It's about saying, geez, I'm glad you asked that question. No one's ever asked me that. It shows that Jaime actually cares, that she's wondering about what drives me, or where I'm at in my life. Or like you said, you and Katie having this, what are you thinking right now? Yeah. I agree with you. There's not enough of that interaction anymore. And that question never gets old. And I appreciate my beautiful babe when she says it too. Is like, dude, you're in some really deep thought right now. Like, I swear there's smoke coming out of yours. What do you think? And it just gives me a segue to say, I'm really glad you asked that. And I lay out like a 20-minute, here's where I'm at. And let's look at that, Jaime. She's watched me go to Vegas in September, not knowing what I was walking into, and then Montreal, and then back to Vegas a few times. She's just sitting there looking, this guy's spinning, but he's doing what he loves. I've never been so lit up in all my life to touch with people like yourself and say, this is what I've always been curious about, but here the opportunity is.
And I'm sure she appreciates it, and there's no doubt in my mind it's probably rubbed off on her. And she'll say at some point, if it wasn't for you, I ... Guaranteed that phrase has probably come out of her mouth.
Where are we at in this recording? Where about I'm gonna play that for her tonight when she gets home, and I'll say, my little sister, you gotta hear this. No, I'm a very blessed man from so many angles.
Good.
And that's so great. So when is the wedding? Like, am I gonna get, I'm worried about me now. I'm gonna be completely selfish. Like, your brother Tom will make the trip because you two are worth it in my life. And I need to tell you that. And even if it's a small venue and I see it on recording, I'm just kidding, and I can totally understand that. But
it'll be on Instagram Live either way.
When is the big day?
Labor Day weekend 2019.
Nice. Well, congratulations. As I'm looking you in the eye, I know I've said it across the airwaves, but I haven't got to look you in the eye and say congratulations. And I'm throwing you a big tank hug through the screen to you and Katie. And that is so magnificent and so exciting and all those good things. So what is the, after this weekend coming up here, didn't you say, I thought I saw you post that you had something coming up in 3 or 4 days. You don't have a competition in 3 or 4 days, do you?
The combine one.
Oh, that's this weekend. Here I'm thinking, but then I'm getting mixed up with Power Series the weekend after.
Not doing the one on the 14th. Yeah.
Right. So where are you doing the combine? Just out of your own gym?
Yeah, out of the CrossFit gym. They run a Sunday morning barbell club from 10 to 11:30. So I asked Sue to put my kill time at around that time so I can do it out of the gym while everyone else is lifting, and I don't have to put the coach out or anything.
And please tell me you're going to put that on live, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what time on Sunday your time so I can get this watched?
When Sue tells me, I will tell you.
Okay.
Don't lose it to like Thursday night or Friday morning. Anyway, I'll figure it out. The last part, I should mention this. Katie's, in 25 years, she's never been to a Boston Celtics game.
What?
So I'm taking her to her first Boston Celtics game Friday night, but Boston's pretty far away from Ipswich, so we're actually staying over in Boston Friday night into Saturday, so I have to weigh in from a hotel room on Saturday morning.
Of course you do.
That is dedication.
That is dedication. Well, that's nice. That'll be a great date night for you guys. Have you been to one before?
Never. So like when the Celtics played the Raptors in Toronto, I've seen games in Miami. I've seen games in Toronto. She's never been to an NBA game. So
that is sweet. What is your favorite sport that you like to watch? Basketball.
CrossFit games, but yeah, basketball. Would favorite like mainstream sport for sure, basketball, but also Patriots. I think she's waking up, so Patriots.
Oh damn. Oh, so cool. Well, hey, I so appreciate you taking the time, and I love that you called this meat and potatoes. Like I said, I gotta say that again.
Yeah.
I love that analogy, and I'm so grateful that you shared your story and your journey this far. And there's so much more in the tank. I tell you, there's so much more for you.
There's more in the tank. That should be your tagline, like hashtag. There's more in the tank. I like that.
See, I think here's what I need to do. I'm going to ask this of you. I think I need to talk to you weekly. And because you really helped me out to say just like that. I mean, I was saying that for you. There's so much more in your tank, yet my name is Tank, and I should, So I think it would be great creatively. I should reach out to you and jump on. You know what I'll do? I'll watch for your guys' next Instagram live when you're there, and I'll pop a question on there, and I'll say, hey, perfect. I'm struggling with this. Help me with this. It'll be
help me with my branding and marketing. Okay, no problem. That's what I do. Yeah.
Well, you keep being savage as F. Like, well, I see it savage as fuck. I'm sorry, but I like to be passionate, insanely passionate. I love that shirt. And it so fits you. You are like the perfect person to wear that gear. That is for damn sure.
I will tell them you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you again so much for having me on. I appreciate you and what you're doing with this.
That means a lot to me. Thank you very much, sister. And give Katie a big hug and one for you. And I look forward to watching how you light up Combine.
You got it, brah.
Okay. Take care, hon. Take care. Bye-bye.